Something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent.
Come on, man.
We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
All right, getting into it here, live from the shadow of Detroit. It is the Foxhole of Freedom. Glad to have you on board as we continue this very busy week. Kicking off another brand new hour here, of course, with three big things you need to know. Here's number one. The U.S. has moved to freeze all visa processing for 75 different countries, including Somalia, Russia, and Iran. It's a dramatic and important move to protect our national security. Number two. With the price of silver soaring to unprecedented heights, the U.S. Mint has suspended all sales of the precious metal. They cannot keep up with the price and the roaring demand. And number three, the cry of freedom is in every human soul, as evidenced today in the nation of Iran, where they're willing to die than live oppressed any longer, where they're willing to stand up to bullets and batons with empty hands and scream for freedom. Give me liberty or give me death. It's not just an American ideal. It's a human ideal. The people are taking to the streets trying to be a part of something bigger than themselves, even if it costs them their lives. And many, it has. Thousands, in fact. Nobody's quite sure. Tens of thousands, possibly, according to some estimates. Thousands have been killed by the Islamic regime cracking down viciously on these protests. It's hard to know just how costly this fight has been, because the Islamic regime has cut all access to the internet. Only a few with access to Starlink have been able to get any information out or videos. When the internet is cut, the violence happens in silence. We're being targeted because the regime fears truth, visibility, and of course, unity. Being seen saving lives, which is what Elon Musk has been trying to do by making Starlink available there. But the internet can only do so much against a regime that is dead set on retaining its power no matter what the cost. This is the kind of evil we're dealing with. This is viral footage coming out of Iran. It's the Islamic regime's military storming a hospital, just to get to protesters who survived the initial crackdown. These thugs tear gassed the place, fired live weapons, smashed down doors, dragged out the wounded protesters who were trying to survive. Staff and patients beaten with batons in the process. This is the kind of evil that we can't even fathom over here in our first world indignity toward law enforcement. This is the kind of evil that all social justice warriors should be up in arms about. But of course, they're not. Where are all the Free Palestine protesters? Where are all the rallies and the signs and the chants and the cheers? Nowhere to be found. And you know why? Pro-Palestinians can't get behind freeing Iran because the same ideology that enslaved Iran is the one that is behind them in their support of Palestine, terrorism. The left is more passionate about standing up for Islam than they are about actual human rights violations being committed by the Islamic regime against its entire country. Listen to just how brutal the regime really is.
Minority, and I know I've got the parents of friends and family in Iran. You know, they come to your house, shoot you in the head, throw your body in a ditch, and then they present the families with an invoice that you have to pay something like $5,000 to release the body, and part of the invoice includes bullets that were used to kill your loved ones. So you're paying even for the bullets. We are out in numbers. The atmosphere is incredible. People are not going to stop because they're at that stage in their lives where it's better to, this is their words, better to die on your feet than live on your knees.
Yeah, those Free Palestine college activists wouldn't know what that kind of conviction looks like. They want to sit outside in their tents with their Starbucks oat milk lattes and their signs for an ideology that treats its opponents just like the man just described. While Iranian people are fighting to be freed from it. Some people do get it. CNN's Van Jones, believe it or not, gets it. Because even a broken clock is right twice a day. Here he is.
If you like peace, and if you like democracy, and if you like women being free, and if you like innovation, unleash these Persians. Well, I mean, I think what's happening in Iran may be the most important thing happening in the world. You're going to unleash 90 million people who come from one of the most creative, imaginative, and regal cultures in the history of the world, which could help all humanity tomorrow instantly. It's worth the fight to get them free. A lot of stuff you were dealing with today, they invented. And so they just had a lid on their head for half of a century. And so I think a freed up Persian culture can be incredible for technology, can be incredible for humanity, can be incredible for the arts. It could be the end of a lot of BS in the region. You need a free Iranian people. You need the Persians back on the map.
I'm going to need Van Jones to scream that from the rooftops because the rest of his party pretty much silent on the matter. But that's the Democrats for you. Historically, always on the wrong side of an important issue. In 2020, they attacked Donald Trump for taking out the Iranian military leader Soleimani. Remember this? Watch.
Tragically, his actions now put us on the path to another war.
He's been erratic and unsuccessful in almost every previous foreign policy endeavor. This one is the most dangerous of all.
We are not safer today than we were before Donald Trump acted.
We seem to have accomplished what Soleimani was trying to do but couldn't. So in death, he's actually accomplished his goal.
Taking out a bad guy is not a good idea unless you are ready for what comes next.
This is and was an enormous escalation.
Remarkable, isn't it? And in 2025, they attacked him for taking out Iran's nuclear facilities. Both times, like they were doing there, they were predicting he would kick off a regional war. It's time for war. Neither time were they right, of course, because they never are. Now that there's an actual war, a war against the Iranian citizens, they're silent. In 2009, when Barack Obama saw the uprising in Iran at that time, he sided with the mullahs. Donald Trump sides with those yearning to be free. He is on the right side of history. He stands with the people of Iran who have been abused, murdered, raped for 47 years. Listen to this Iranian journalist explain how her people have felt under tyranny when different U.S. presidents have been in power.
You've been obviously focused on this for years. Does this moment feel different than previous moments of unrest?
I even smell the freedom. I even feel like when people go to the streets, they show their face. They take on their own social media. They say that we have no fear because we have nothing to lose. As you mentioned, we have seen 6 major, massive uprising in Iran. In 2009, you mentioned about Nidal Sultan. At the same time, when people were in the street chanting, Obama, Obama, you either with us or with them, President Obama was sending secret letter to Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of the Islamic Republic. In 2022, when Mahsa got killed, women took to the street. Women, life, freedom.
Yeah.
One of the most progressive slogan. What happened? President Biden was handing out billions of dollars to the same regime that hired killers to target U.S. citizens on U.S. soil. They even asked me to go under witness protection. I mean, it's a joke. So for the first time that we now see the United States of America's president taking a strong action, saying that he is ready to save the lives of Iranians. Iranians are welcoming that.
They certainly are. More on the fight for freedom in Iran in a moment. All right, everyone respects strength. The Iranian people look up to our president, as you heard. The Islamic regime terrified of him today. Millions and hundreds of millions of dollars flowing out of the country right now by all accounts. Why? Because the regime realizes they could be on their last legs, so they're shipping money by the truckload out of the country. Trump has issued a series of threats against the Ayatollah and the IRGC. That has been the latest this week. Listen to this.
We will take very strong action. If they do such a thing, we will take very strong action.
And this strong action you're talking about, what's the end game?
The end game is to win. I like winning.
How do you define that in Iran?
Well, let's define it in Venezuela. Let's define it with al-Baghdadi. He was wiped out. Let's define it with Soleimani. And let's define it in Iran, where he wiped out their Iran nuclear threat in a period of about 15 minutes once the B-2s got there. And that was a complete obliteration, as it turns out, which is what I said initially. Then some questioned it, and they said, Trump was right. So we've been right about everything. We don't want to see what's happening in Iran happen. And, if they want to have protests, that's one thing. When they start killing thousands of people, and now you're telling me about hanging, we'll see how that works out for them. It's not going to work out good.
Yeah. Don't believe those hangings happened as promised yesterday. No word yet because of the limited information coming out. And any threats from Iran against retaliating against the United States, that's a joke. They didn't retaliate when we blew up their nuclear facilities because they know who's got the stronger military capabilities. Nobody's stronger than the United States. If they try to start something with us, they know exactly who will finish it, which is perhaps why they may have backed off on the crackdown against their own citizens, according to Trump. Is it true? Again, we're trying to get information. Here's the president.
We've been told that the killing in Iran is stopping, and it's stopped, and it's stopping. And there's no plan for executions or executions. So I've been told that on good authority. We'll find out about it. I'm sure if it happens, we'll all be very upset, including you will be very upset. But that's just gotten to me, some information that the killing has stopped, that the executions have stopped. They're not going to have an execution, which a lot of people were talking about for the last couple of days. Today was going to be the day of execution. And another piece of information that I think is very important is the leaker has been found.
Yeah, we'll get back to that as well. I don't trust Iran. I don't. I mean, how could you after 46, 47 years? We'll see how far this one goes, but there's one thing I know for sure. The people of Iran trust Donald Trump, who is currently very popular over there. A source on the ground in Iran got this message out using Starlink, trying to link up with the American media. I have to emphasize that among Iranian people, Trump is the most popular person right now. He has so much popularity because of the steps that he took toward preventing the growth of terrorism in the Middle East. They respect him. They respect him. Now, Democrats can try to attack Trump, and they will, call him a dictator, but everyone else around the world knows that he's the only one actually standing up to dictators, which is why Iranians are sharing messages like that one and like this one.
President Trump, I want to thank you on behalf of all the Iranians fighting for our freedom right now, today. No president in U.S. history has supported us like you have.
Yeah, the world is watching. Whether the media wants to admit it or not doesn't matter. The Iranian people aren't asking for sympathy. They're demanding solidarity, truth, and strength and freedom. They know who stands with them and who cowers in silence. History always remembers who spoke up and who went the other way. Freedom doesn't need permission. Tyranny never falls quietly. The cries from Iran should echo in every free nation. Stand with the oppressed or be counted with the oppressors. And right now, the Iranian people are making it clear. They know exactly who is on the side of liberty and who is not. That's a fact. So we'll keep an eye on what's happening in Iran. Look, the president says the attacks against the civilians were going to be curtailed. Again, we're not sure about that. The information coming out is very limited. But here are the estimates of the number dead. 3,000 on the low end, 20,000 on the high end. But nobody knows for sure. As you heard that man say, they'll come in, murder your family member, throw them in a ditch, and send you the bill. When that's happening across the country of 92 million people, it's hard to keep up. 200 different cities have been embroiled in these protests. So how do you keep track of who's been killed? And here's what I'll tell you. The information I'm getting is that action by the United States is imminent. Imminent. What does that mean? Well, it means that if I were the Ayatollah or the imams or the IRGC, I'd be a little nervous. We're not going in with boots on the ground. We're not going to invade Iran. But we do have tools like Predator drones and other high-tech weapons. We saw it in Venezuela. If I were in Tehran or elsewhere and part of the regime right now, I'd be concerned because these people yearn for freedom. And there's one person right now who can help them get that more than anyone else, and that's President Trump. We'll keep an eye on it. Hey, let me ask you this. When was the last time you woke up feeling truly energized? Well, that's exactly what Longevity Wellness is all about. Their nutritional shake mix is built with protein, collagen, omega-3s, even bovine colostrum to support your gut, joints, and your brain. It's important. No gimmicks, just clean, science-backed ingredients that help you feel stronger every single day. Start your mornings with longevity. You can go to longevitywellness.co/Gruber. longevitywellness.co/Gruber. The promo code Gruber will save you 10% on your order today. Look, we use it every day in this household. From the kid that's going to, basketball practice now, and he goes and lifts weights. I wish I had been that dedicated when I was his age. Anyhow, he uses it because it's a big pick-me-up after he's done with his workouts and his practices. For older folks, it'll help you maintain muscle and bone. Same thing if you're on some sort of a weight loss program. Maintain your muscle and bone. Don't let your body shrivel up. longevitywellness.co/Gruber. longevitywellness.co/Gruber. You'll save 10%. When I come back, Ivy will be here in a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. All-time record highs for gold and silver again yesterday. Yeah. And the structural shortages and the demand driving silver towards $100 an ounce. It's at 91.5 today. As a result of that, the U.S. Mint that make those silver eagles and so forth said no more. They put a freeze on all orders. In fact, I heard a story yesterday that one of these big companies that had placed an order for millions of dollars worth of silver eagles, the Mint says, yeah, we're not delivering those. You see, the problem was Friday of last week, silver was at $77. Today it's at almost $92, $15 an ounce difference. If you sold those silver eagles and you sold a big batch of them and all of a sudden you're underwater on it, yeah, they're not doing that. But to me, if you've already signed the purchase order, you've already paid the purchase order, and you've got this contract, that creates problems for the U.S. Mint. We'll see what happens there, but these prices are going wild, no question. Let's see here. This is not normal, they say. When the Mint pauses sales, it means physical demand is overwhelming the system, and the paper price is no longer accurately reflecting the market value. This is how every silver squeeze starts. Sales halted, premiums explode, availability vanishes. We'll see what happens. But there's expected rate cuts for the Fed. Physical markets are tight. And plus, silver is booming in the industrial world right now. They're using it for these data centers and so forth because it's better than copper for all their circuitry. Yeah, there's a lot going on with silver and gold. Gold also setting record highs at rates above $4,600 an ounce. Pretty incredible, to say the least. Pretty incredible, to say the least. All right, coming up, we'll have Tom Norton here. He's a candidate for the Michigan State Senate and an Afghan war vet. We're going to talk more about Iran. Everything that I'm hearing is that action there is imminent, but what kind of action? That's the question. What kind of action? Who's going to be targeted? Will it be a Soleimani-type strike, something more robust? I don't know. We'll ask Tom about that straight ahead right here on the Steve Gruber Show. Remember, you can follow me at stevegruber.com, all the social media platforms. YouTube, a great place to get this program every day in the live stream. Follow us. Become part of the team. I'll be right back. All right, back to it now. Glad to have you on board. My next guest, Tom Norton. He's running for a Michigan State Senate seat. He was also an Iraq War veteran and a guy who is well connected to a lot of different places inside politics. Tom, welcome back to the program.
Good morning, Steve.
Nice to see you today. All right, so you've had boots on the ground, your own, in the Middle East. When Donald Trump talks about action against Iran, he's not talking about boots on the ground, I don't believe. But there's a lot of chatter. It's really elevated right now that some sort of action in Iran is imminent. That's what my sources are telling me. They're good sources. But, of course, the timetable, you never know. There was action imminent in Venezuela, but as you know, weather kept them on the bench for about 3, 4, 5 days, depending on who you talk to, before they took the action to take out Maduro. What are you hearing from the people you know in the military and your sources? What are you hearing?
Well, what's most likely is going to happen is what essentially we did back in the 1970s. You got to realize the Democrats are who put in the Ayatollah. Jimmy Carter funded him from France in order to get rid of Raza Pavini back in 1979. It was about $350 million that the CIA spent. We actually armed them. What I probably see happening here is most likely the same type of tactic. The United States has used it primarily in the Cold War, and Donald Trump is using more of a peace through strength type policy that was traditionally used even under Ronald Reagan. He did that type of things with they had Iran-Contra, where he attempted to arm the people. But the issue was that they weren't ready for a full revolution because they hadn't gotten as bad as it has gotten. You got to realize in the 1970s, Iran was basically like a tourist attraction for most Americans and people from around the world. If you see pictures from it, it looked like France. It was a beautiful place. It was diverse. It was a religiously open and free society. And as the Ayatollah came in, they destroyed that, and that was over oil. And that's why Jimmy Carter funded that type of program with the CIA to take them out. So what I see happening,
and it wasn't just the United States, Tom. It was the UK and France and the United States working in concert together to knock out the. What did we get in return for that? We got 52 hostages held for 444 days. We all remember that until Ronald Reagan took the oath of office, and suddenly they're on a plane home. They feared Ronald Reagan. I think they feared Donald Trump more. Your thoughts?
They do. Yeah, they do. And I believe Donald Trump is going to be able to give the resources necessary. The people are standing up and taking out Maduro here in Venezuela. That's what has led this uprising, because now these people aren't feeling like they're alone. They're feeling like somebody is behind them. There's actually hope that they're going to be back. You got to look at these folks. They had the Green Movement under Barack Obama, and Obama essentially sat there and continued to fund the Ayatollah by bribing them with billions of US dollars and basically crushing his own people. I mean, there's been this consistency of allowing these dictators to stay in power, and Donald Trump is trying to make sure that freedom is spread. If you want to solve illegal immigration, transplant freedom around the world, and you won't have it anymore. So when you sit there and talk about strong borders, a strong country, he's making sure that these people will rebuild their own countries and want to stay there. Iran is a beautiful place that has been, it's a country that's been completely destroyed, and Donald Trump's going to be able to bring in the resources necessary. What you'll probably see is SOCOM, Green Berets, different type of resources like that. I imagine right now they got the DIA and multiple other agencies getting ready to be able to move in the resources for these people to stand up, because they don't have the Second Amendment. And if they had the Second Amendment, they would already stood up to their government. So what needs to happen is the arsenal of freedom needs to be transplanted there. So I don't think it will be as much of a surgical strike. I think what's happening is he's probably warned them that we will arm your people. You will be removed. His people are willing to do it. That is very clear what's going on in Iran. And that's what I see happening.
Well, I saw overnight the Kurds came over in one section of the country. Look, it's a country of 92 million people. You're right about it, Tom. It is a beautiful country. There's no question about that. And you go back and look at Iran in the 1970s and the pictures and the freedom and the Western atmosphere, if you will, compared to what it's been for 46 years, almost 47 next month. I don't know what the right move is. It was the Army Rangers that went into Venezuela with the most effective military strike maybe any of us have ever seen. But that comes after the strike on the Iranian nuclear sites, which was one of the most sophisticated strikes we've ever seen, 40-hour mission. I mean, the demonstration of how technically advanced the American military is and the equipment that we have. You probably heard the stories from the guards there in Venezuela. There was some sort of a sonic weapon. They were incapacitated, where all of a sudden they can't see straight, they can't think, they hit the ground, they've got blood coming out of the nose. Not fatal. Some of the soldiers were on the ground vomiting, because we have weapons that most people have never even seen before. Pretty remarkable, isn't it?
It is. A lot of these weapons were employed back in 2012 in Afghanistan. Worked out on a base. We were attached to SOCOM, and those units would use weapons like that to capture number two, number three in Al Qaeda, and they were special guests in the location that we were at. And that's the type of thing that was used extensively in the war on terror, where these weapons were developed, and they are extremely effective all the way around. And the Iranian Air Force, as you know, the Israelis eventually annihilated it a couple of months ago. So there's not much that's going to be able to stop whatever is necessary or needs to happen in order to give these people the ability to establish freedom within their own country.
Yeah, I talked about this off the top of the program. This human desire for freedom, to live without fear, to raise your family as you see fit, to pursue whatever your God-given talents are. I mean, it's eternal, this yearning for freedom. It's not just an American thing. It's not a Western civilization thing. It's a human thing. And that's why these people are in the streets willing to be shot. They'd rather be dead than to be under this regime any longer. And that's why I feel this is different. It's different from the uprising in 2007 or 2019 or at other times. I think it feels different. It seems different. And I don't think it's going away. Your thoughts on that?
It's not going away. You got to realize these kids that are protesting in the street, these adults that are protesting in the street, everybody from every age, they've heard from their parents what Iran used to be like under Raza Pavini. And they have heard that they were free. They've heard that, women were able to protest and have jobs and things of that nature. They've heard what it used to be an Iranian. And you look at like what happened in Iraq is Iraq stood up and they fought ISIS, and the United States came in there and backed them in defeating ISIS. And they've become a more secular nation again with democracy slowly prevailing. And countries need those types of things to happen. I hate to say it, but at the end of the day, a nation, in order to identify itself and what it's going to be and what freedom truly is going to be, essentially needs to have that type of conflict take place within itself. And that's what happened in Iraq with ISIS, with some of their own people. That's what happened in the United States during the American Civil War and multitudes of other nations, the French Revolution. After Napoleon, they were able to sit there and slowly establish what they were as a country. And after he was removed, you look back throughout the history of the world, and to get to the freedom that's necessary and that internal yearning of a human being, there is some type of sacrifice that has to happen. There is something that has for prevalence, and that's what's happening in Iran right now.
Tom, you're absolutely right. In order to throw off the chains of tyranny, unfortunately, it's a rough struggle, and it is a struggle, and people die. But hopefully for the generations to come, freedom will return to the Persians. We hope so. Tom, always good to talk to you, my friend. Thank you.
You too. God bless.
There you have it. Tom Norton, everybody. He served. He gets it. We'll watch closely. Ivy is straight ahead. Early morning bonus for you. It's the Steve Gruber Show. All right, let's jump back into it. It's a special bonus for me. Ivy usually appears a little bit later in the program, but today, you lucky dogs, you get her early, and so do I. Ivy, good morning.
Good morning, Steve.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well.
It seems like a simple question, Ivy. It does. What is a man? I'm a man. You're a woman. This is not high science, right? I mean, it's just the things that get tangled up in the left makes my head hurt sometimes. Yours too, I'm guessing.
You sent me this bite yesterday from Senator Josh Hawley, and as I'm watching it, my mouth is agape because I just cannot understand why Dr. Verma in the exchange cannot answer a simple question as...
A doctor.
Yes. Can a man get pregnant? And this exchange goes on, but we have that bite. I believe it's bite 8, correct, Steve?
That's correct.
Let's hear it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since you bring it up, why don't we just start there? Dr. Verma, I wasn't sure I understood your answer to Senator Moody a moment ago. Do you think that men can get pregnant?
I hesitated there because I wasn't sure where the conversation was going or what the goal was. I mean, I do take care of patients with different identities. I take care of many women. I take care of people with different identities. And so that's where I paused. I think, yeah, I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
Well, the goal is just the truth. So can men get pregnant?
Again, the reason I paused there is I'm not really sure what the goal of the question is.
The goal is just to establish a biological reality. You just said a moment ago that science and evidence should control, not politics.
Absolutely.
So let's just test that proposition. Can men get pregnant?
I take care of people with many identities, but
can men get pregnant?
Many women that can get pregnant. I do take care of people that don't identify as women. That
Can men get pregnant?
Again, as I'm saying.
Let me just remind you what you testified to a moment ago. Science and evidence should control, not politics. So can men get pregnant? You're a doctor, I think.
Science and evidence should guide medicine.
Do science and evidence tell us that men can get pregnant? Biological men, can they get pregnant?
I also think yes/no questions like this are a political tool. And
no, yes/no questions are about the truth, doctor. Let's not make a mockery of this proceeding.
Unbelievable.
And by
and
the
it goes
way,
on.
That went on for several more minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I have some other questions though.
Okay.
And I wish I could have asked these. Can biological women impregnate men?
There you go, making sense.
Can
Ivy.
a biological man, or has there ever been a biological man to date that has given birth? Okay, let's switch up the questions a little bit.
All right.
Because, I mean, that's what I would ask, because it's like they kept harping on this, which I completely agree, can a man get pregnant? But how about let's take it from a couple angles as well? Because the answer is no, a biological male cannot get pregnant. A biological woman cannot impregnate a man. No, to date, no biological man has given birth. It is impossible. They do not have a vagina. They do not have ovaries. They don't have all of these things that are required in reproductive, sex to be able to do these things.
Yeah, you mentioned menopause too. You take it from the other end. Has a biological man ever gone through menopause?
Right.
No, I mean.
And then as a biological woman going through menopause, what sorts of hormone therapy do you need, if any, to be able to get through those things?
Well, hold on. I think these people need therapy.
Well,
it's just not hormone therapy.
But this doctor, okay, first of all,
should not have a license.
There are sex-specific disease risks, okay?
Yeah.
So if you continue to pretend that men are women and women are men.
Well, let's take it from another point. How many women get prostate cancer?
Probably very few.
Zero, because the women don't have that.
Correct.
I mean, come on. Just one thing after another. It's biological dimorphism.
Right.
Male and female of the species are different. It's biological dimorphism. That's the term. It's kindergarten science. And this woman, in my estimation, I was stunned and agape like you were, but I was also, How does she have a medical license?
Right,
How
I
does she
just
have a
have to say,
license to practice medicine?
I said to you that they should pull the medical license, and when you said prostate cancer there, I was actually thinking colon cancer. So
Right, that's all right.
when I said that doesn't happen very often, I'm like, wait a minute, he
Doesn't
said
happen at all,
prostate
right.
cancer. But anyhow, I want to read you something. So gene expression so hormones play a big role in gene expression, and I don't have a lot of time here, but I'm just going to run through a couple things. Although the DNA sequence is nearly the same outside of sex chromosomes, sex influences how thousands of genes are turned on and off, which are expression, in various tissues.
Because every cell has the same DNA fingerprint. Go on.
Right. So in, let's say, males, the gene expression is higher in muscle building. Gene expression is higher in females for fat storage because of child rearing and birth and things like that. The level at which we're playing, in my opinion, God here, because God does not make mistakes. If you are a man, you were meant to be a man. If you're a woman, you're meant to be a woman. All of these genes play a vital role in our bodies, and they are turned on and off by sex chromosomes. And if you play with that stuff, who knows what these long-term effects are?
The long-term effects.
And let's not talk, also infertility. Maybe one day you decide that you're not actually a man and you might want to get pregnant and start a family.
Too
and
late.
You've screwed yourself because you no longer are able to do that.
Yeah.
But it is
All
a very,
true.
very, very sad state of affairs
It
when
is, the fact that this is even a conversation, and they bring in the 14th Amendment, which I think was passed in 1868, to make sure that freed slaves had equal protection of the law. This has nothing to do with equal protection. Can you imagine those folks coming back and go, you want men to do what? Anyhow, Ivy, nice seeing you so early. Love you.
I love you too, Steve.
Greatly appreciate you being here, as always.
Thank you.
I'm a man. She's a woman. For those of you keeping score at home, write that down in your little scorecard. All right, I'll be right back. We are a small team here, but boy, we are agile. We are agile. We're quick as a cat. What I'm getting at is, what's that?
Did you just call me small?
Anthony is not small. He is a tall weightlifting machine. Anyhow, but I watch these chats in Getter and on YouTube, and I really like something that Versus put in there. Telling the truth is an acoustic weapon. I actually think that's kind of cute, and I like it. And just so you know, Versus, I'm just going to steal it. Telling the truth is an acoustic weapon against stupidity and the left. I'm just going to expand on it a little bit. I really like that. By the way, the United States is freezing all visa processing for 75 countries. Those countries include Somalia, Russia, Iran, Afghanistan, Brazil, Nigeria, Thailand, and others. It begins January the 21st, a little less than a week. Pausing immigrant visa processing in an effort to crack down on applicants deemed likely to become a public charge. This has always been the case, by the way. And what they're getting at is when you go to Minnesota and you look at the welfare rates of the Somalian community in Minneapolis, the welfare rates are 81%. 81% of the Somalian-connected folks. And some people say, well, they're citizens. That doesn't. Look, your genealogy takes you back to Somalia. 81% are on welfare. 78% that have been here more than 10 years are on welfare. You see, if you get together and procreate, but don't get married, both of you can still milk the system. Both of you can still get public benefits, food stamps, housing allowances, all the rest, right? Whatever's out there. It's remarkable, and so we're putting an end to that. It's another way to stop waste, fraud, and abuse. Good idea. Love the folks in the chat. Don't worry, guys. I like. It's hard because I'll get in there and make comments, but I do my best. On YouTube, on Getter. By the way, if you want to follow us on YouTube, it's an easy thing to do. Anthony's even got a QR code for you. Get your phone ready because he's going to put it up for you. And you can just go there, bam. And by the way, the new podcast, Forgotten America. We've got the first episode recorded with Kyle Rittenhouse. You'll find that on YouTube. Use that QR code right there. You'll become a follower today. A lot more to come in the next hour here. It's the Steve Gruber Show. God bless Real America's Voice and all the rest. something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent. Come on, man. We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
And here we are fighting for you, for God and country, every single day. Fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom right here in the shadow of Detroit. Right here in the heartland of America. I've got my finger on the pulse every day, and I try to tell you the truth about everything we can find so you're the most educated audience in media today. Here are three big things you need to know to start this hour. Number one, the Supreme Court has issued a big decision on whether a member of Congress can sue Illinois over the practice of mail-in ballots. The answer is yes, they can. Good news for the Republicans. Number two, here's a big update on what actually happened to Jonathan Ross, the ICE agent struck by Renee Good. Contrary to false reporting, he suffered significant injuries, internal bleeding from that automobile hit. And number three, we're going to have a bit of a competition this hour. I decided this. Ivy was on here a minute ago, and I said, let's have a little competition this hour. Who can say the dumbest possible things and make Democrats and progressives look their absolute worst? There's some real competitors out there for the prize. I'm telling you, every single day today, no exception at all. Let's start on Capitol Hill. We heard this bite, but if you missed it, if you missed this, this is the most remarkably stupid exchange you may hear all year. All year. Senator Josh Hawley asking a very easy question about men having babies to a so-called expert witness who is also a doctor, Dr. Nisha Verma. This is a doctor being asked what is pretty obvious. Listen.
Chairman, since you bring it up, why don't we just start there? Dr. Verma, I wasn't sure I understood your answer to Senator Moody a moment ago. Do you think that men can get pregnant?
I hesitated there because I wasn't sure where the conversation was going or what the goal was. I mean, I do take care of patients with different identities. I take care of many women. I take care of people with different identities. And so that's where I paused. I think, yeah, I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
Well, the goal is just the truth. So can men get pregnant?
Again, the reason I paused there is I'm not really sure what the goal of the question is.
The goal is just to establish a biological reality. You just said a moment ago that science and evidence should control, not politics. Absolutely. So let's just test that proposition. Can men get pregnant?
I take care of people with many identities, but
can men get pregnant?
I take care of many women that can get pregnant. I do take care of people that don't identify as women. That
can men get pregnant?
Again, as I'm saying,
let me just remind you what you testified to a moment ago. Science and evidence should control, not politics. Absolutely. So can men get pregnant? You're a doctor, I think.
Science and evidence should guide medicine.
Do science and evidence tell us that men can get pregnant? Biological men, can they get pregnant?
I also think yes/no questions like this are a political tool. And
no, yes/no questions are about the truth, doctor. Let's not make a mockery of this proceeding.
I think it's too late for that, Senator. She made a mockery of the hearing. Can you imagine if that were your doctor? Seriously. Anthony, can you get pregnant?
No, I don't think so.
I'm hoping not for your sake.
But sometimes when I eat a bunch of burritos or something, that's
you
probably
have a food
as close
baby.
as I can get. Yeah.
A food baby. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine that's your doctor? And she's like, well, you know, maybe. Has a man ever given birth? Has a man ever gone through menopause? Has a woman ever had prostate cancer? I mean, just, it's mind-numbing that you get to a point in the conversation where you're like, you're too stupid for me to have a conversation with. I'm sorry, you're too stupid. You're so beholden to your ideology. You were so beholden to your ideology, you can't say the plain truth. You've been twisted to a point where telling the plain truth is dangerous. As I saw in the chat here last hour, telling the truth is an acoustic weapon against the left. How true is that? I told you I was going to steal that. All right, so the dumbest things you can hear. How about another contestant, Hakeem Jeffries? They like criminals more than they like cops. And he says Democrats will defund ICE We're going to defund ICE because that'll make the country better. Here it is.
I want to switch over to a different topic here. This is obviously something that's consumed the entire country for the last week or so, and that is the issue of the lawlessness of ICE. And so, from your vantage, is there anything that Congress or that congressional Democrats might be able to do to limit funding for ICE, so to kind of cut them off, where it matters most, which is the funding source?
Yeah, in the context of the upcoming Homeland Security bill, House appropriators on the Democratic side are pushing aggressive accountability measures to try to rein ICE in because they are completely and totally out of control.
Oh, we're going to rein them in because they're out of control doing their job. By the way, thousands of people were arrested in Minnesota over the last 4 years. I think the number was 6,000. Arrested by ICE in the state of Minnesota during the Biden years. People weren't throwing chunks of ice at ICE members then. They weren't throwing bottles and trying to hit them with their cars then. What changed? Oh, that's right. Trump's president. And Minneapolis Mayor Soy Boy Jacob Fry cannot seem to understand that interfering with federal officers is, by definition, a felony. Something else stupid to ponder.
You're seeing it in real time. You are aware that 18 U.S. Code 111 makes it a federal crime to impede, interfere, or even assault officers. And we see the protesters crossing a line of protesting, throwing rocks, hitting cars, and interfering in the federal government's view of their operation of carrying out federal immigration law enforcement.
We have had perhaps tens of thousands of people peacefully protesting in the streets. And at the same time, yeah, they are going to stand up for their neighbors. And
yeah, the Germans were mostly peaceful just before they got us into World War II. The mullahs were mostly peaceful before that Iranian revolution in 1979. Mostly peaceful is the most meaningless, silly comment. Mostly peaceful. Yeah, that's true. Most people are mostly peaceful. But they'll sit there and watch while the 5% that are not mostly peaceful create havoc and chaos. They create chaos and violence and then complain about the methods that are used to rein in that violence. It is remarkable. Now, if you're dealing with aches and pains or everyday discomfort, it's time to check out Patriots Relief. Right now, they're offering 46% off site-wide all week. Use the promo code Gruber. That's real relief at a serious discount. Even better, free shipping. Nothing holding you back. Don't guess, don't wait. Get relief that works. Head on over to patriotsrelief.com. Use the promo code Gruber. Save 46% all week. We use the product. It's right here. It's right here next to me, just in case I need it. Look, I'm older. I got a lot of aches and pains. PatriotsRelief.com, promo code Gruber, save 46% all week. You'll be glad you did. I'm going to take a break. When I come back, Hans von Spakovsky, Advancing American Freedom Senior Legal Fellow. How about that SCOTUS transgender sports case? Wow. We'll have it coming up. All right, back to it now as we dig into the biggest stories of the day every day. Look, the debate in front of the Supreme Court over men and women's sports. It is also, as we sit here, and I watched the bite from Senator Hawley asking the doctor, you know, can men have a baby? Can men get pregnant? And she can't answer it. It's remarkable that we're in such an idiotic place in the conversation. Hans von Spakovsky joining me from the Advancing American Freedom. He is a senior legal fellow there. Hans, welcome back to the program.
Well, thanks for having me back.
You know, at some point in the conversation, Hans, I just think when I hear somebody say something like that, doctor, well, you know, I don't know what you're trying to ask me. Can a man get pregnant? That's what I'm trying to ask you. Can a man get pregnant? And she can't answer it. Or should men compete in women's sports? I feel like I'm talking to somebody who's too stupid to have the conversation. I'm sorry, but I just feel that way. And Samuel Alito, can you define a man? What is a man? Because if you can't define what it is, how do you discriminate against something that you can't describe or explain? I mean, it was brilliant. Your thoughts?
Well, no, I agree. And as ridiculous as that exchange was between Hawley and the doctor, and this was an OBGYN.
Yeah.
It's very clear she's driven by politics, not biology and not science. And that's exactly the kind of exchanges we saw at the Supreme Court. By the way, Steve, this was unprecedented in terms of how long it is. Supreme Court arguments are usually about an hour. This went on for 3.5 hours before the court. And the lawyer, for example, for the ACLU was spending the entire time trying to tell the court that they should, for example, not define sex, even though they sued under Title IX, which prohibits sex discrimination. And also, he was denying biological reality. I mean, he was trying to claim that the drugs that males take so they'll look like a female will somehow prevent the unfair advantage that males have biologically, because, as you know, they're bigger, they have a greater bone density. Yeah. And again, he was spending the whole time denying scientific reality.
It's biological dimorphism is a first grade science idea. There's difference between the male of the species and the female of the species. I don't care if it's ducks or people, it doesn't matter. Look, this transgender thing reached its peak as far as people buying into it or supporting it or being on board with it in 2023. It's on the backslide because even Democrats can't with a straight face say, oh, yeah, there's no difference between men and women. Trust me. I've had sons and daughters. There is a distinct difference, Hans. Everybody knows it. Every parent that's been around kids knows it. Every grandparent knows it. There is a difference. And anybody who's played in sports knows there is a difference. And so how did we ever get to the point in the conversation that the left thought, well, this is a good idea. Let's make this our hill to die on?
Well, because, like I said, it's left-wing politics driving their view. Even though this is common sense, for example, it tells you how bad our federal judicial system has become, that we had lower courts actually enjoining the laws at issue here. And remember, the laws at issue out of Idaho and West Virginia were laws that said that biological males cannot compete in women's sports. I mean, it's very, very simple. And yet you had federal judges saying, oh, no, these laws can't be enforced. Look, I think that we are going to get a good decision from the court. The question is, will it be 6-3 or will it be less? The conservative justices all seemed to understand the issue here, but Kagan, for example, Sotomayor, and Justice Jackson, who, as you know, are the most liberal members of the court, I think they're going to defy common sense and go with the politics of the situation.
Unbelievable. You know, and the 14th Amendment, written in the aftermath of the Civil War, equal protection under the law. It was for recently freed slaves, so they would not be denied their God-given inalienable rights as an American citizen any further. Can you imagine what those folks would think if they said, what do you mean that means men can compete against women? Where is that in the amendment? It's just, can you imagine, Hans, what they think? How the hell did you get that out of that?
No, and listen, particularly Chief Justice Roberts made this point, that the conservative justices understand that if they rule the wrong way, they were talking about that this would then go across the board. So we may be talking about athletic teams here, but if they write this kind of an exception into Title IX, into the Equal Protection Clause, it will apply in every kind of situation you can possibly imagine. And they discuss that. And I think they realize that if they rule the wrong way here, it will be opening up a Pandora's box.
Yeah. A Pandora's box that has no good outcomes. I mean,
right.
defying biblical truth, biological truth, common sense truth, there's no good ending there. Hans, I'll give you the last word.
I think we will get a good decision, just like we did last year when they upheld the state laws that said you could not surgically mutilate minors for this purpose.
Exactly right. I think it should be a 9-0 decision, but it won't be. Ketanji Brown Jackson knows no statute that she will defy, no matter what the truth of the matter is. Hans, thank you for being here.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Always good. Unbelievable. Can a man get pregnant? We really have to ask this question. We really have to have this conversation. I mean, come on, people. Now, I've seen some fellows that look like they might be pregnant. They ain't. All right. That's as my friend used to call it, a Milwaukee tumorous beer belly. Yeah. All right, we'll take a break and be back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. How deep is the fraud? I mean, every day I see a story like this, and I go, really? How did they pull this off for so long? Here's the headline: Somali suitcase stash. Feds say $130 million moved from Ohio airport to Minnesota on its way overseas. This is from Just the News. My good friend John Solomon over there. Officials telling Just the News that Transportation Security Administration agents, TSA agents, tracked and flagged about $136 million in bulk cash in outbound luggage at the passenger checkpoints at the John Glenn Columbus International Airport since November of 23. And by the way, and I don't like this law. I think it's inappropriate. Anything over $10,000 in cash is beyond the threshold, the legal limit. Look, if it's my cash, I should be able to move it. Now, I understand why they do it, because they want to inhibit drug dealers and criminals and so forth. But here, this money went out. The cash movements out of Minnesota's largest airports by the Somali immigrants were 90 to 99 times larger than the total amounts moved out of major international airports like JFK. or Seattle or Atlanta. Gee, do you see a pattern here, folks? Boys and girls, do you see something as a common denominator here? Something else that is a term too big for the left. Senate Homeland Security Committee Chair Rand Paul has taken note of the Just the News reporting revealing to popular podcaster Joe Rogan this week he's launching an investigation to see if the exports of cash were tied to the fraud. Let me jump to the answer for you, Senator. Yes. Yes, those cash runs from the airport to Somalia were part of the fraud. Somalis were so good at it, they were sending hundreds of millions of dollars back overseas, Paul told Rogan, which is why they've been stopped. Look, it takes a long time to clean up the mess we had. There was political power in allowing it to continue in places like Minnesota or Columbus, Ohio, because they would get all the votes from the Somalian community. Just let the fraud continue, the votes would continue to flow, and some of that money, make no mistake, I guarantee you ended up back in the campaign coffers of these politicians allowing it to happen. This is criminal behavior. People must be arrested. People must be put in prison. Period. Paragraph. Full stop. All right, here we go, diving right back into it. One of my favorite guests. Eric Matheny is an attorney, a podcaster, a social commentator, and co-host of Bob and Eric Save America. Well, somebody's got to do it. Eric, welcome back to the program.
Hey, how are you, Steve? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I look around, somebody's got to do it. I think we're getting there. I think we've moved off center. I think we're getting there slowly but surely, but there's a lot of damage to be done. Let me just ask you the question of the day. You ready?
Yes.
Can men get pregnant?
Absolutely not.
I mean, good Lord. Anthony, just play the first 30 seconds of that Bite 8. Listen to this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since you bring it up, why don't we just start there? Dr. Verma, I wasn't sure I understood your answer to Senator Moody a moment ago. Do you think that men can get pregnant?
I hesitated there because I wasn't sure where the conversation was going or what the goal was. I mean, I do take care of patients with different identities. I take care of many women. I take care of people with different identities. And so that's where I paused. I think, yeah, I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
Well, the goal is just the truth. So.
Unbelievable. That goes on for 5 minutes, by the way. She doesn't answer the question, Eric. I'm sure you've seen that. But how do we get to a point in the conversation that we are so dumbed down or so beholden to an ideology that is a very simple question? Can men get pregnant? The answer is obviously no. Wow. I just sit here and I'm dumbfounded by these sorts of things. And you see it every day, don't you?
You see it every day, but the thing is, imagine 20 years ago having some kind of run-of-the-mill, boring congressional hearing. You could ask any doctor of any political persuasion, far left, far right, in the middle, can men get pregnant? No. Next question, let's move on. That's a stupid question. Why would you waste government time asking me something so stupid? But yet here we are, and mind you, that's a doctor, Steve. That's
an
OBGYN.
An OBGYN, and she can't answer the question. Good Lord. You're right.
So her profession, she delivers children. Obviously, we don't know physiology lesson. We know how that happens. Has she ever delivered a child given birth by a male with the proper male appendages? Has that ever happened? If so, then that's a scientific miracle.
Yeah. There was a movie in the 70s called The Rabbit Test, some really B-level movie. I remember that it was about a man getting pregnant. I mean, this ideology has been planted and passed around, but I feel like when I hear things like that, I get just a little dumber. I mean, come on, you're a doctor. It's biological dimorphism. This is simple stuff, but it's not just this. We live in a country where the left, the far left for sure, want to make law enforcement the criminals and the criminals the victims. You know, every cop's a criminal and every sinner a saint. Thank you, the Rolling Stones, for that line from. But honestly, I mean, logic and common sense have been turned on their head, Eric. It's mind-blowing to me.
It is, and unfortunately what we're seeing is a repeat of what we saw in 2020. I was commenting this morning to some colleagues of mine, obviously as an attorney in my day job, the quality of police officers that we're seeing as a result of this anti-police sentiment is suffering. The police officers and the detectives that I deal with on a daily basis as a defense attorney now are not as well trained. They're not as prepared. They're not as thorough as they used to be. And I think reason being is young people are seeing the anti-cop sentiment. They're seeing the body-worn camera footage, the proliferation of such, showing blatant danger and disrespect. Law enforcement in Minneapolis trying to do their job. Steve, trying to remove people from the community, A, who have no legal right to be here, and B, who are ripping off these members of the community with their tax fraud. And these people are out there putting themselves in harm's way, committing violence against law enforcement. Mind you, Jonathan Ross, the ICE agent, he was struck by the car. Despite what the media wants to tell you and all the leftist talking points, oh, he didn't get hit, he got out of the way. He had internal bleeding. Is that another medical miracle? Is that like men giving birth? How do you get internal bleeding? You get hit by a 2-ton SUV. The quality of law enforcement is suffering. We are less safe because of the community opinion on law enforcement, and it comes directly from the top. And yeah. I've been watching footage out of Minnesota. We can't stand for another 2020, Steve.
Yeah, look, a number of years ago, I worked for NBC News. I worked for local news stations. For a period of time, I worked for NBC. The complicit nature of the dishonest reporting, and it is dishonest. I mean, I sit there in the press briefing room every few weeks and spend some time at the White House. I listen to the questions that are asked. Then I look at what is broadcast from the same thing that I sit there and watch and go, how did you get that out of that? To me, it's driven by ideology, not by facts, not by common sense, not by logic, but by this steady drumbeat of left-wing ideology. I think we're winning. I think we're pushing it back. I mean, transgenderism reached its peak in 2023, and now it's on the backslide, thank God. But then it'll be the next thing. It's, Earth first, and windmills will save the world, and all this other nonsense. It's one left-wing talking point after another. And we're done with those. They'll find a new one, won't they?
They will find a new one, but what the left does, remember, when they are losing on the political battlefront, when they're losing in terms of policy, which they are across every metric, when they get backed into a corner, they become rabid, shrieking animals that will jump in front of ICE agents, will shout. This is what we've seen this for. This is just, it's the same thing over and over, whether it's Palestine, whether it's with the Supreme Court with Kavanaugh, whether it's January 6th, whatever the thing of the day is, the current thing, the left just turns into this absolute maelstrom of madness, and without any policy, without anything to put forward other than we're going to get in your face and we're going to scream and shriek and be the loudest voices in the room. So what we're seeing is nothing new. The problem is the Democrat Party fully endorses this. They embrace their crazy. They put their crazy out on the forefront, and they say, this is our party platform. We're not going to talk about it. We're not going to talk about doing anything to help the American people. We're just going to send out our foot soldiers, and we're going to have them shout and be real loud and violent.
You know who they're not standing up for today? The nation of Iran, where women are being shot in the streets and protesters are being shot dead in the streets. Thousands. We're not sure of the total number now. We may never know the total number. They just shoot them and throw them in a ditch and then send the family a bill for $5,000, including a bill for the bullets. They scream no kings, but then stand with Maduro. I mean, their hypocrisy has no bounds, does it?
Well, what you're talking about now with Iran, and when you're talking about Maduro, and when you're talking about, let's even take it a step further, talk about all the ICE raids happening under Obama. He deported more people than anybody. You didn't see any protesting. You didn't see any screaming, because that would make it real. That would make it real. This is LARPing. This is live action role playing. This is fun. This is what you have to have is at the bottom of all this. It's not political. There is a boredom crisis in this country. I swear to God, jigsaw puzzle companies need to come out and just mass produce jigsaw puzzles and give people something to do. I think we're a nation of human beings with too much technology, too much to eat, too much abundance, who are just absolutely bored. Remember, we are cavemen and cavewomen, Steve, and that caveman, cavewoman brain is not being used properly. Everything we need is right here. This is it right here. I don't have to evolve anymore. Tap of a touchscreen. I have food. I have instant gratification. It's rewiring our brains, and we're bored. We need something to do. And middle-aged white liberal housewives who are unsatisfied, unfulfilled in their home lives go out and jump in front of ICE agents and scream because they have nothing else to do. It is so much more than politics. It's a mental health crisis.
Absolutely true. You've absolutely nailed it. You got a minute more?
Yeah, I got all the time in the world for you, Steve.
All right, let's stick around because I want to explore that a little bit. Why are white women, usually older, you look at these protests, they're 60, 65 plus, they're all white. There's no black folks. There's no Hispanic folks. It's all these white folks. It's like hippiedom. Revisited. Hippiedom. I'm surprised they don't show up in VW microbuses, to be honest with you. Hold it right there. Eric Matheny. He is part of Bob and Eric Save America. By God, somebody has to do it. We'll be back with Eric after this on The Steve Gruber Show. Jumping right back into it now with Eric Matheny. He is the co-host of the Bob and Eric Save America podcast. Very popular. You can find him on X and elsewhere. And give it a listen. These guys are bright and on it. Eric, let's continue here. Here's the problem that I have. You look back, Minnesota deported something like 6,000 people during Biden's administration by ICE agents, right? There was no protests or no Renee Goods blocking the street or the chaos. You had different things happen during the Obama administration, the Biden administration, that they didn't care. I mean, Obama sent 5 million plus people out of the country, enforced immigration laws. And people in the Democrat Party said, we have got to get rid of Maduro. But as soon as it happens, they scream because Trump did it. It's their same policies, but because Trump's doing it, there's something wrong with it. Which brings me to the next question, which is Greenland. I believe that Greenland will be under U.S. control before Trump leaves office, probably much sooner. They had a meeting yesterday with the Danish delegation, and when they left, they said, well, we don't agree, but we're going to negotiate. Of course you are. And I've heard that they offered as much as $500,000 per person in Greenland. Who's not voting for that? Here's $500,000 US. Now, it's expensive, but it is the biggest unsinkable aircraft carrier in the North Atlantic. It is strategic because that ocean leads to the Arctic Ocean. You put a Russian nuclear sub up there. They're well within striking distance. We must secure this. Denmark, I don't trust them with my security. What are your thoughts?
No, I think it's strategically, if you really look at Greenland, and I've had the privilege twice of flying over that beautiful country, and it really is beautiful. Only something like 60,000 people live there, and they all live in the bottom part of it. So if you go to the north and you look at where it is in relation to Russia, yeah, it's within striking distance. Militarily, it's a strategic position for us in both the North Atlantic and the Arctic. I don't see why not. Trump has made it somewhat of a forefront issue. He talks about it a lot. We know when Trump gets an idea in his head, and if he repeats it more than once, he's probably going to follow through on it. So yes, I fully agree with that. I think by the end of his term, it will be under U.S. control.
But here's the point. You said go look at it on a map, basically. Go look. Here's the problem with the Trump-hating crowd out there. They don't care what it is. They don't care what the facts are. It doesn't matter. They don't go look. They're not going to go look at a globe and say, oh, while Greenland is really important, they will not do the research to find out we've been trying to get Greenland since 1867. They won't look at the fact that Harry Truman offered $100 million for it. They won't look at the fact that the U.S. Virgin Islands used to be the Danish West Indies until we bought it for $25 million in 1917. They don't do their homework. They just hate Trump. That's a pretty scary place to be. And you go back to what you said previously. It's a mental health crisis. If somebody says something and you just disagree with them because they said it, it's not something wrong with them, something wrong with you.
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned before the break that it's namely white women, namely affluent white women, which you have to wonder, like, take a step back. These are people with very privileged, sometimes enviable lives, nice homes, nice communities, safe neighborhoods. Husband may earn enough money that the wife can stay home, and maybe that's the issue. Maybe there's just nothing to do. I think another thing I notice, and this upsets some people, but in the last couple of years, I kind of don't watch my words as much anymore. These people, if you look at the video, I don't see a lot of physically attractive people. I don't see a lot of fit people. I don't see a lot of people who would otherwise have a reason to go home and be happy. These typically are very frumpy, out of shape, middle-aged women.
Love that
frumpy.
word. Frumpy.
Frumpy.
Love that.
Frumpy, homely. Look, if you took the effort it takes to travel across state lines, to shout at an ICE agent, get a gym membership, watch the carbs, take a few walks, touch some grass, put the phone down. I don't think you'd want to go out and protest. You'd be too happy to be like, hey, I'm a good-looking person. I have more options now.
Right. Well, and the other thing is this. Where else could they be? Because you make the point, whether they're stay-at-home moms or privileged background, whatever it is, living in their gated community and screaming about the injustice of the world while they go home with their oat milk latte after their hard day at the protest. Look, these people need to be, I don't know what they need to be, but here's the problem we face, Eric. The white voter is still the biggest voting bloc in America, clearly. And so white women then, therefore, by that fact, are the biggest voting bloc. So white women, I've heard this, and I'll say it, are the most dangerous thing to America today are white liberal women. Yes or no?
Here's the thing, and the funny thing about it is white liberal women are also the most effective deportation force in America if you saw Martha's Vineyard. The minute that these people set foot on their
Absolutely.
lily white beach community, they kicked them off before their coffees got cold.
That's
They are.
right.
If we could get rid of ICE tomorrow, give me 36 white women with a couple Lexus SUVs, they would clean this country out in a week.
But they did not kick out their illegals that made their coffee that morning or went out and trimmed
mowed
their
the lawn.
shrubs that day. You can't throw those folks out. But these 50 people that showed up, we can't possibly support that. Look, Barack Obama has an 18-acre compound there. He could have housed all 50 people and had extra room. Just him. I mean, I've been to Martha's Vineyard. It's a beautiful place. And those folks kicked him out faster than you can imagine. Eric, I'm going to give you the last word.
Look, it's just, again, I think you're right. Whatever Trump does, if Trump cured cancer tomorrow, they'd protest. Cancer has a right to exist. Whatever Trump does, whatever Trump says, they're going to be the opposite of that. The bottom line is that I think we have won back the culture. You made a comment earlier about when transgenderism peaked. It's on the decline. And look, I think by and large, Americans are like, do what you want, live how you want. Don't force it down my throat. This is accepted science. This is accepted reality. This is the world we live in. I still like to think that we're on the winning side and that we've reclaimed the culture as much as we reclaimed the White House.
Yeah, we are on the winning side, Eric, but we have to keep telling the truth. I appreciate you do that. Where can people find you?
Follow me on X at Eric M. Matheny and check us out, Bob and Eric Save America, on Apple and Spotify.
Thank you, my friend. We'll talk again.
Thank you.
There you have it, Eric Matheny, everybody. That guy needs an opinion. Yeah. Look, we have to speak up and tell the truth. Eric, me, everybody that has common sense and the ability to tell the truth and has a platform, we have to tell the truth. We're making progress, but there's so much work to do. Don't give up. Don't give in. When we come back, Brock will have sports. I'll be right back. All right, let's check in on sports now with Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. ESPN is reporting that the New York Giants and John Harbaugh are close to a deal that would make him their new head coach. An announcement could come at any day. Harbaugh, as you may remember, was fired by the Baltimore Ravens early last week. Oregon quarterback Dante Moore announced yesterday that he'll return to school for his redshirt junior season. Moore was projected to be the second quarterback taken in this spring's NFL draft. NBA, there were 7 games last night. Winners included Cleveland, Chicago, Sacramento, and Denver. In the NHL, there were 4 games. Winners were New Jersey, Buffalo, Ottawa, and Vegas. In men's college basketball, number 1 Arizona, number 4 Michigan, and number 5 Purdue all won, but 10th-ranked Vanderbilt fell from the ranks of the unbeaten with an 80-64 loss at Texas. And in women's college basketball, number 3 UCLA, number 10 Texas, and 14th-ranked Ohio State all won. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock, I have a question there.
Uh-oh.
No, it's a simple question. He returns to school at Oregon.
Yes, he does.
Projected to be the number 2 draft pick.
Potentially as high as number 2. He'll be the second quarterback taken once Fernando Mendoza declares after the national championship.
Right. So here's my question. He's turning down literally tens of millions of dollars to play one more year in college or 2 or whatever. Can you get insurance for that? Like, what if he gets, injured and, blows a knee?
I'm sure he can. Remember when Peyton Manning decided to go back to Tennessee for his senior year back in 1997, he took out an insurance policy, I believe, from Lloyd's of London. So I would think Dante Moore would do the same thing.
You'd have to.
There are 3 reasons why he is coming back.
Number 1.
NIL.
There it is. 1, 2, and 3.
And
So how much is he getting paid?
And the chance to win a national championship. Oh, for him, somewhere between $2 and $5 million probably.
So less than his signing bonus in the NFL.
Yes, as high as he was going to get drafted. Yeah, he could have potentially gone as high as number 2 to, I think it's the New York Giants. No, the Giants aren't going to take a quarterback, but he could go as high as number 2, but he's turning it down to go back to school for another year.
Well, good for him, I think. I can't quite figure it out. Brock, always appreciate your insights. Thank you, my friend. We're going to take a break. In the next hour, we've got Katie Hyde is going to be here. Congressman Tom Barrett will join me. A blueprint for a better America, reforming government for working families, his focus. We'll talk about that and much more coming up in the next hour here on The Steve Gruber Show. always something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent. Come on, man. We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
It sure is, and welcome back to it as we kick off another hour here of the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to have you on board, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom every single day. Thank you for being here. Three big things this hour. Number one, discrimination claims have surfaced again inside Jocelyn Benson's office, the Secretary of State's office in Michigan. Her run for governor seems to be hitting a lot of potholes. Oh, brand new polling. I'll have that for you, too, here in a moment. Number two, actions have consequences. Senator Alyssa Slotkin says she is now under investigation for that seditious video she put out with Mark Kelly and others a few weeks ago, telling people not to obey the lawful orders of the president. And number three, I want to start with this today because, you know what? I'm going to start with polling. I'm going to start with the polling, speaking of the race in Michigan. I got brand new polling in my hand from the Detroit News and WDIV, the NBC affiliate in Detroit, on the race for the Michigan Senate seat and the race for governor. In a race between Mike Rogers and Haley Stevens, they're tied at 44% apiece. We'd like Haley Stevens to be the opponent. That would be lovely. Between Rogers and McMorrow, he leads by 4 points. Between Rogers and El Sayed, he leads by 6 points. And in the race for governor, a three-way race between John James, Jocelyn Benson, and Mike Duggan. John James leads at 34%, Benson at 32%, Duggan at 26%. We'll see how that all plays out. A three-way race, good for the Republicans. No question about that. A three-way race, very good for the Republicans in Michigan. And that Senate seat is critical. That Senate seat is critical. All right? So we're going to keep an eye on that very closely. I want to start with Greenland, though. I'm watching this closely, and I do believe that once Donald Trump, Eric Matheny just said this in the last hour, and I agree with what he said. If you hear Donald Trump say something 2 or 3 or 4 times, he means it. He's on that track. It's in his head. He believes it should happen. And look, Greenland is the biggest unsinkable aircraft carrier in the North Atlantic. It's strategic in its importance. It's in the Western Hemisphere, and I do not trust Denmark to protect my national security here from incursions from Russia and China and anybody else for that matter. Do you trust the UK to protect you? You trust France to protect you? Germany? NATO in general? Do you trust NATO to protect the interests of the United States of America? I don't. I think that our protection is up to us. I think making sure that we have national security is up to us. That's why Greenland's so important. By the way, they met yesterday, and the process is moving forward. Now, Greenland says, no, we're not going to allow the United States to take over our semi-autonomous island. We're still with the Kingdom of Denmark. Well, good for you. But there's going to be a lot of money flying around. We'll see what happens. The information getting out indicates the financial offer is more than Denmark's entire GDP. If the United States offers Denmark more than the entire GDP of that nation, they're going to turn it down? I don't know. Listen to this.
And we therefore still have a fundamental disagreement, but we also agree to disagree. And therefore we will, however, continue to talk. We have decided to form a high-level working group to explore if we can find a common way forward. The group, in our view, should focus on how to address the American security concerns, while at the same time respecting the red lines of the Kingdom of Denmark. We expect that such a group will meet for a first time within a matter of weeks. And then I will pass the floor to my colleague from Greenland, Vivian Mosfeld.
Yeah, anyhow. The negotiations will continue. That's not a hard no. That's a, we don't like what we've seen. It's a no, but it's not a hard no. So where does that end up? We will find out where that goes, because it's an incredibly important conversation. Renee Good's former father-in-law says he does not blame ICE agents And he doesn't blame Jonathan Ross, the ICE agent involved here, who killed Renee Good after she struck him with her car just over a week ago now. It's bite number 12. I want you to hear it.
No, I'm not blaming anybody. I mean, it's a hard situation all the way around. It's hard for for everybody involved. I mean, the ICE agent, at first I didn't see the footage where, he was actually, he was actually being ran. I mean, I seen the bump of the car hitting his legs. And so in a flash like that, it's hard to say how you would react. From my understanding that he had been through that before, maybe dragged or something. And so, like I said, it's just a hard situation for everybody. Becca, she's a great person as well. I mean, I don't have any many enemies. I love everybody, and that's what the Bible tells us: love our neighbors as we love ourselves. But I think there's some bad choices, and the word says, "For the wrath of God will come upon the children of disobedience." And it's I don't blame ICE. I don't blame Rebecca.
Bad choices. He doesn't blame ICE. He doesn't blame Renee. Okay. You go and create chaos, the outcome's bad. More chaos last night in Minneapolis. In fact, there's footage I just saw that the protesters, the agitators, the activists put a tow strap onto a locked safe in the back of an ICE vehicle. They commandeer this ICE vehicle. They rip the gun safe out of the back of the car. That happened. And this happened from the chief of police in Minneapolis. Here's what he said. Listen.
At 6:51 p.m., Minneapolis police received a 911 call reporting a shooting on the 600 block of 24 Avenue North. Preliminary information indicates that there was a struggle with a federal agent in front of the resident. During the struggle, the federal agent discharged his weapon, striking one adult male. The adult male then retreated inside of the residence, where he remained inside and refused to come out. Eventually, federal agents made entry into the residence, and the individual was brought to an ambulance where he has been transported to the hospital. Minneapolis police have secured the crime scene around the location, and the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, as well as the FBI, are on the scene processing the evidence. There's a crowd gathered in the area, and we have called for mutual aid from the Minnesota State Patrol and Hennepin County Sheriff. The crowd is engaging in unlawful acts. They have thrown fireworks at police officers, and at multiple times, gas has been deployed. Police are attempting to disperse this unlawful assembly at this time. I urge anyone that is at the scene to leave immediately.
The state of Minneapolis, Minnesota. This is what happens when bad policies are allowed to take root. When police officers are demonized, and the police in that city are told, don't help the federal agents, don't help your fellow law enforcement officers. Bad policies, bad outcomes. I'll take a break and be right back. All right, back to it now. My next guest, my congressman, Tom Barrett. He represents me here in Michigan, and he's in Washington representing me today. Congressman, good morning.
Good morning, Steve. Thanks for having me on, and good morning to everybody back in mid-Michigan today.
And everywhere else across the country. I agree. It's good to have you in Washington, but you said that the margins are so tight. No time off for you or anybody else if there's an important vote coming up. You lost a member who died. You've got some other folks out for other reasons. It's tight, tight, tight. The good news is I'm seeing pretty good polling out of Michigan. And for the governor's race and for the Senate seat with Mike Rogers, we'll see how that all plays out. You've got a brand new program here. Reforming Government for Working Families is your initiative here. Go ahead and tell the folks what you're working on.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks again for having me on this morning. This is an exciting thing that I'm launching. I've been in Congress really almost exactly 1 year right now, and I came here, really interested in making significant change because I ran for Congress because I wasn't satisfied with the way things were going in the country, and I wanted to dig in and do the hard work of making real reforms. And a lot of times we got to do incremental reforms along the way, but I don't want to miss or waste the opportunity to make real systemic changes to our country and turn us in a different direction. So I have what I'm calling my blueprint for a better America. It's a reform agenda to change and challenge the status quo in so many ways. People can go to barrett.house.gov/reform. We're even having a portal where people can submit their own ideas for how they would like to reform government. But some of the things we're looking at starting out is having term limits for members of Congress, having a cooling off period between running for another office. Too many people come to Washington, D.C. just looking to run for another office and another office and another office. It feels like the entire United States Senate thinks they're a AAA baseball team for becoming president in 5 or 10 or 20 years from now. I think that we ought to really shift that so that people come into office intent on doing the job they're elected to do and focus on representing their constituents, making campaign finance reforms so that out-of-state billionaires can't control the outcomes of elections in districts and cities and towns and states they've never even been to, that they just simply fly over back and forth from east to west coast. Taking on real big reforms. We've already done a number of these things legislatively, introducing bills in this. One that I was proud to introduce this week is a ban on stock trading for members of Congress so that members of Congress aren't coming here and getting phenomenally wealthy based on information that they may be privy to that the general public is not. It would stop individual members of Congress from buying individual stocks once they're elected and serving in office. And it would require them, if they own stocks prior to that, to provide public notice before selling them so that any member of the public would be able to scrutinize that and really analyze it for themselves. So we're trying to do some big things, some big reforms. I'm excited about it. Over the next several weeks, we're going to be introducing this legislative package, and I really encourage people to follow along, tell us what they think, and provide their input along the way.
Yeah, I think that's all very important stuff because, look, we need changes. You mentioned term limits.
Yes.
You're willing to impose term limits on yourself. I was just thinking about that when you said that. Joe Biden went to Washington, I think, in 1973 and left in 2025. I mean, Lord. Yeah. The longest serving member of Congress was right here in Michigan, right?
Yeah.
60
John
years.
Dingell.
Yeah.
Yeah. John Dingell. Here's a little interesting historical fact for you, Steve. I think I've mentioned you on air before. My great-grandfather served in Congress, was elected 90 years before me.
Yep.
Served in Congress with John Dingell. And I now serve in Congress with John Dingell's wife. Yeah. And, I mean, and that's not, Debbie Dingell's a wonderful lady. I mean, we get along very well, but, you look at this span of time of that kind of thing. And I think reasonable term limits are appropriate. People can disagree on how long in which chamber and all that other stuff. That's a political debate worth having. But I think just the starting point idea of having term limits is an important thing to have. And I also think, one of my biggest frustrations coming here and sitting, serving in Congress for a year is that probably 3/4 of the members are here genuinely, I think, trying to move in the direction that they want to see and here for the right reasons, even those I disagree with. I don't have to agree with them to respect that I think they're genuine in what they're trying to do. About 1/4 of the members that get all of the attention are here simply to either get famous or to run for the next thing they want to do. and they spend all of their time in Congress just trying to look through things in that lens. And I'm not condemning anybody running for another office. That's not my point in this. But when too many people come here with that motivation in mind before they've even gotten sworn in, that distorts what they're doing. So I think we ought to have, just like we do with lobbying, I think we ought to expand the lobbying cooling off period so that people can't lobby the folks that they just served with a short period of time earlier, that revolving door from lawmaker to lobbyist. I think we ought to do that for federal offices. So you can't run for Congress and then immediately run for the Senate and immediately run for president. If you want to do those things, let's have a cooling off period in between. I think there's a lot of different reforms we can do. I think we ought to constitutionally set the Supreme Court at 9 justices. Why do we have these debates every election about packing the court? Most people may not realize that the court is not constitutionally required to be 9 justices. Well, let's lock that in so that we're not having these stupid, debates about packing the court based on the whims of a particular, party at a given time. And, your point about Joe Biden, he's the only person in office that was in office during the fall of Saigon and the collapse of Afghanistan.
Yeah,
That's
the only
wrong.
one. Yeah,
we shouldn't have that.
You forgot one other point there in your laundry list of why we need to change this. They go to Washington not just to get famous or to go to the next job, but to get rich. And a lot of them have done that. Tom, we got to leave it there. Good stuff. And I encourage you to go after these things. I used to be not in support of term limits. I've warmed to the idea. I guess I would have to see what the final ideas are, but I think it's a good conversation to have, an important conversation to have. Tom Barrett, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Steve.
There you have it. Tom Barrett, my member of Congress, trying to shake things up a little bit and do something for you, the American people. I'll take a break and be right back. All right, so the Supreme Court weighing in on a case that is beneficial to anyone opposed to mail-in ballots, the way I read it. Republicans filed a flurry of lawsuits in recent years over mail-in balloting, which is, a disaster. It's not allowed, I don't believe, in any country in Europe. They tried it and said, no, that's ripe for fraud. The Supreme Court Wednesday ruled that federal candidates have the right to challenge state election laws that govern the counting of ballots in their states, clearing the way for a blizzard of new lawsuits in the run-up to this year's midterm elections. They ruled 7-2. So one of the liberals got on board too. The candidates running for federal office have the standing to sue state election boards over the counting of ballots. Yeah. Including challenging laws that allow for the counting of late arriving mail-in ballots. Candidates, in short, are not mere bystanders in their own elections. They have an obvious personal stake in how the result is determined and regarded, said John Roberts. We need not resolve whether respondents are right because winning and doing so as inexpensively and decisively as possible are not a candidate's only interests in an election. Naturally, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson dissented. Of course it does. And of course she does. She doesn't follow any particular legal jurisprudence or precedent. She follows ideology, period. Tired of taking vitamins that don't seem to work? Well, Protivite is a breakthrough liquid formula designed to absorb quickly so your body actually uses it. When we say multivitamin, we mean it. With over 100 nutrients, including B vitamins, amino acids, zinc, plant extracts, you get daily support for energy, focus, immune health. It's a great product, only from Victory Nutrition International. Nutrition that gets in. Start your mornings with Protivite. Feel the difference. And you can get 20% off right now at vni.life/Gruber. vni.life/Gruber. The promo code Gruber will save you 20%. VNI, those are the vitamins we use right here in our house every day. Ivy did the research, and then she forces me to take them. She just says, I'm kidding. VNI.life/Gruber, sort of. I'll be right back with Katie Hyde from Michigan News Source. All right, well, my good friends and my team at Michigan News Source continue to hammer great stories. If you're not looking at MichiganNewsSource.com, you really are missing out. There's stories that affect Michigan. There are also stories that affect the nation every single day. One of those stories about Alyssa Slotkin, one of the folks that was on that video here 6 weeks ago, telling members of the military, don't follow illegal orders, don't follow unlawful orders. She did it. Senator Mark Kelly, a veteran, was on that video, and several other members of Congress, but they never defined what an illegal order was or an unlawful order. Blowback now. Mark Kelly being investigated by the Department of Defense, and Alyssa Slotkin says she's also under federal investigation. You can find this story at MichiganNewsSource.com. Joining me now, Katie Hyde. She is the Assistant News Director at Michigan News Source. Katie, good morning.
Good morning.
Alyssa Slotkin, actions have consequences. If you go out and say things like this, which undermine, and they really do, the chain of command, undermine the confidence of military personnel. I mean, well, you're telling us that you have to go out and determine in that moment whether this is a legal order, illegal order, nonsense. So she's being investigated. What's this about?
She has never been able to answer why she made the video and what specific illegal orders these so-called seditious six were talking about in that video. It came out in November, where a group of them said to military members, you don't have to obey illegal orders. She was never able, and the others on the video, to specify what specific illegal orders the Trump administration was giving. And then since the video came out, she's appeared on the talk show circuit. She's been on her account on X, saying that this is what happens when you speak out politically. But she's never been able to specify what exactly they're against. And I talked to a member of the military who's now retired, and he said, the last thing we're going to listen to, or the last person we're going to listen to, is a politician. We have a chain of command. If we are given an order that we don't think is quite right or could possibly be illegal, we have a chain of command that we go through, and we ask them, is this what we can do? And if they get a yes or a no, they follow those orders. They're not going to listen to someone from DC. So obviously their audience was not military members. So the Justice Department is investigating their actions and whether they will have any legal consequences. And and I talked to an attorney as well, and I said, what kind of trouble could she get into? Because I know she's former military as well, so there could be some additional...
She wasn't military exactly. She was an analyst. CIA. CIA analyst, which, by the way, is kind of a low-level job. It's not even anything... She plays it up as if she was some, critical part of the machine. She wasn't. She's an analyst.
You gotta boost that resume, Steve.
Well, I get that. But this comes at a time when we've seen two of the most impressive military operations of my lifetime, taking out Iran's nuclear capabilities and extracting Maduro without losing a single American life or piece of equipment. Two of the most remarkable things. Does she believe those were unlawful orders? Anyhow, these investigations need to happen. Where they lead, I don't know, but it is important for these politicians, as you point out, to know that people are going to hold them accountable, including Michigan News Source. We're going to hold these people accountable, and it doesn't matter if they're Republicans, Democrats, independents, communists, I don't care. We're going to shine a light on that.
It's been so long, I think, that the political elite, it doesn't matter what party you're from, have been able to do these outrageous things. Think of the fact that we've just opened our borders and we've allowed anyone to come in here. And now we're finally seeing the consequences of those actions. And free speech is guaranteed in our Constitution, but just because it's guaranteed doesn't mean that you're free from the consequences of your actions. And I think that we're seeing some of those chickens come home to roost, where if you come in this country illegally, there is going to be a process to remove you because you have to come in legally. If you are a member of Congress and you say outrageous things, you're allowed to say them, but we're going to investigate if you did any wrongdoing. And so the fatigue that we've had from no one being held accountable, we're starting to see a little bit of justice. And I think that is very refreshing for the American people. Now, is there enough of that going on? Yeah, could there be more? Of course. But we're starting to see a little bit of that ship turn around.
Over in Minnesota, there's investigations into the governor there for all the fraud and everything, Tim Walz. Look, Illinois sends a lot of governors to prison. It's kind of their practice over in Illinois. Hey, see you, governor, you're going to prison, one after another. Right. I think Minnesota could follow suit. But in the race for governor here in Michigan, more potholes in the road for Jocelyn Benson, the Secretary of State. She keeps running into problems. She's running for governor. Here's a headline: discrimination claims surface again inside Benson's office. What's happening here?
Yes, well, she is obviously a Secretary of State, and she's doing two things now. She's trying to run for governor and do her job. She's tied up in court. The Michigan House is after her. She's refusing to answer subpoenas. So that's all going on. But in her office earlier this month in Wayne County Circuit Court, four either current or former employees brought a suit saying they were treated differently in her office because of their race. And they said they were more frequently investigated, sidelined, maligned, not looked after for a promotion. And so there are just some serious things, according to these allegations, that are going on in Benson's office that they want remedied. And so this is just another thing that you don't want behind you, looking over your shoulder as you're running for governor. And we say it's January. We have a long time until the November 2026 election. That is a very short amount of time for people who want to get their name out there and say why they should be elected the next leader of this state. And so she just appears to keep piling up the things that could count against her, although she is polling the highest on the Democratic side for name recognition. Some have argued that could be because she's been in the news for all the wrong reasons, but we shall see as we get closer to November.
Yeah, on another note, speaking of Jocelyn Benson, the state of Oregon this week announced that they're taking 800,000 people off their voter rolls. They were supposed to do this in 2017. A Democrat Secretary of State there resisted, finally got sued. But our Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, has not done what is required by the Constitution, clean up Michigan's voter rolls. If Oregon can do it, the deep blue state of Oregon, we must do it here. Look, these are all things that are going to come up in this campaign against her. I think these are all issues for her. What do you think?
Absolutely. And she's going to have to answer for that. And people are going to hold her feet to the fire, especially with all of these other fraud allegations coming up. People want to know that their vote is counting and that people who aren't supposed to be voting aren't voting. We're seeing in counties, Macomb, where the jury pool was tainted with some people who weren't supposed to be in there, who weren't registered to vote. We've had non-citizens voting, despite the fact that she has said no non-citizens are voting in our election. The evidence indicates otherwise. And so people are going to demand a clean election this time around. Yeah. And she's going to have to answer for that.
Well, with the time remaining, I don't know how that those voter rolls get cleaned up. We'll see what happens. Katie Hyde, the team at Michigan News Source, doing great work every day. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you. And check us out at MichiganNewsSource.com.
Thank you very much. MichiganNewsSource.com. It's my news company, and I go there every day, multiple times a day. It's one of my go-tos because, like I said, if it's going on in Dearborn, we're covering it. If it's going on in Lansing, we're covering it. It doesn't matter where it's going on, we're covering it. Great team, great writers, really good results. I'll take a break. And I'll be back with Ambassador Carla Sands. She was the former ambassador to Denmark. Oh, yeah, she's got some things to talk about with Greenland right after this. All right, let's jump right back into it. We've got just a little bit of time left here on the program. And joining me is Ambassador Carla Sands. She's the chair of the foreign policy at the America First Policy Institute. She is the former U.S. ambassador to Denmark. Kind of an important place to have been the former ambassador to today. Carla, welcome back to the program.
It's great to be back with you, Steve. And, you know, it is a kingdom. It also has Greenland and the Faroe Islands.
Yeah, it's a kingdom, the Kingdom of Denmark, they call it. But when the Kingdom of Denmark was overrun by the Nazis in World War II and Greenland, here on our side of the line in the Western Hemisphere, needed protection, we created the Greenland Defense Pact, right? The United States defended Greenland in World War II. It's top of the fold today because Donald Trump says it has to be under American control. What are your thoughts? They met yesterday. We just played a soundbite. Denmark's position is, no, we can't do that, but we'll negotiate. So it's not over yet. And my understanding, Carla, is that the offer to Denmark to buy this real estate potentially could be more than the entire GDP of that nation. This is a serious conversation. What do you think is really going on?
Well, so a couple of things. Just historically, Denmark was overrun by the Nazis in hours. They don't have a credible defense, even though they're part of NATO. Secondly, we did occupy Greenland. We were 1/4 of the population, our military, during World War II, and we didn't leave until after the fall of the Berlin Wall. We built all the infrastructure at that time, the ports, the airports, the bases. Us paid for most of the infrastructure that exists in Greenland today.
Right,
now,
we built the place. That makes sense. We built the place. And now it's the largest unsinkable aircraft carrier in the North Atlantic, if you will. I don't trust Denmark with the safety of the United States.
No, and you shouldn't, because in 2019, President Trump was really concerned about Greenland and asked the current Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, look, you need to invest in Greenland security. So she promised to invest $200 million, not a lot, into Greenland security. And did you know she didn't invest any of it in security? 1% went into some kind of education program, not real security. So you cannot trust her or anything that she says. They will try to wait President Trump out, and they will try to slow roll all these negotiations. That's just what they do. Yeah,
good luck with that. Look, people on the left up in arms, oh my God, it's the imperialist policy of the United States. Look, we bought the Danish West Indies in 1917 for $25 million. We call them the U.S. Virgin Islands today. The interest in Greenland goes back to 1867. Right after we bought Alaska, there were overtures made. Harry Truman offered $100 million in 1946 to purchase the island. It's about $1.5 billion today. This is a much more serious offer. And look, once Donald Trump mentions something several times and is pursuing it with some vigor, I think that anybody that ignores his desire to have America first, this is the Monroe Doctrine executed. This is the Western Hemisphere. This is our security. This is security of the Arctic from Russia and China. I don't even know if there's really a debate here. It's just a matter of what's the transaction going to look like. I think that's the bottom line. Your thoughts?
Well, I agree with you. Greenland is part of the Golden Dome that President Trump is building to protect all Americans, but it also benefits our allies. Canada certainly wants to be part of that. So President Trump is looking at this with real eyes. When Greenland goes independent, and they will go independent in this century, just like Iceland left Denmark, the kingdom, in the 20th century. In the 21st century, Greenland will go independent. And we cannot allow, and President Trump definitely understands this, we can't allow Greenland to fall into the control of Russia or China. And it would be very easy. There's only about 56,000 people living in Greenland. And like I said, there were a couple of dog sleds and about 30 guys in Greenland, and Denmark called that security, their Joint Arctic Command. And they're nice people, but there's no security. And we can have all the NATO people coming up there that want to. That's not going to get the job done. It's one of three powers that can actually
Let's talk about that, Carla. Look, I don't know if there's a credible army, a credible military on the continent of Europe anymore. Maybe France, but not the UK, not Germany.
No.
So they're like, it's going to destroy NATO. And I'm like, okay.
No.
Could NATO collectively protect the United States? If we were attacked, could they do anything about it? No. But we just demonstrated with our attack on the Iranian nuclear facilities what we can do there. We just demonstrated with incredible specificity taking out Maduro in that high-tech operation. There's no military like ours. We've defended NATO, Canada, Mexico, all these places my entire life. If Greenland, and I've said this, and I'll give you the last word on this, I believe that before Donald Trump leaves the White House, and probably a lot sooner, America will have command and control over Greenland in some fashion far more robust than it is at this moment. Last word to you.
Steve, I think you're 100% right. And I think the people of Greenland will greatly benefit. They will have the development that they're so hopeful for. They'll have better paying jobs, more good paying jobs, and they'll be secure, which today they are not.
Absolutely true. Ambassador Carla Sands, thank you for being here.
Great to be with you. Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Look, it's not up for debate. It really isn't. This is part of the future of this country and how we defend ourselves and how we protect this nation going forward. Period. Now, those on the left can scream, well, we have to stand up for Greenland. Of course you do. Because you don't stand up for America. Greenland will not be treated poorly. Greenland will be more prosperous, more industrious, more connected to the world than at any point in its history. Guarantee it. This part of the program brought to you by WolverineWaterSystems.com. The best water systems in Michigan are from Michigan. My good friends at Wolverine Water will take those stains out of your bathtub, make sure your soap is working right, make sure your water tastes good, looks right. They've got reverse osmosis systems. It's all there for you. 75 years. American-made products for you. WolverineWaterSystems.com, statewide in Michigan. WolverineWaterSystems.com, a partner with this program for years. And the best products you can find. WolverineWaterSystems.com. Back after Well, another big day here. It's just 2026 has been the most blistering news cycle that I can remember. I mean, it just seems to get faster. I call it the quickening. You just continue to get jammed and jammed and jammed every time there's a big story. And if the story doesn't fit the narrative properly, then the politicians and the traditional news media quickly pivot to the next thing. And it is, it goes from Epstein to something else. And back to Epstein, of course, there's nothing there. Bill Clinton doesn't show up. Nobody's screaming about Bill Clinton not showing up. By the way, President Trump just issuing a warning to the insurrectionists, as he calls them, in Minnesota. Let me read for you what has just been posted. If the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE, who are only trying to do their job, I will institute the Insurrection Act, which many presidents have done before me, and quickly put an end to the travesty that is taking place in that once great state. He put that on Truth Social, of course. Look, another shooting last night involving an officer. He was attacked, fighting with an illegal, shot the man in the leg. Agent fired at the suspect because he was in fear for his life and safety after the individual violently assaulted the officer. The Insurrection Act is an 1807 law. It's not been invoked since the riots of 1992. But that's not ancient history, is it? Invoked for what? For riots. When President Trump says it, you do well to listen. All right, I'm going to leave it there for today. Fight the good fight, keep the faith. God bless America, my friends. This is the Steve Gruber Show. And remember this, only you can save America.